Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. And a few things today, different things. So the first thing is related to Danny Shine that I started watching. I think I mentioned him in a few shows ago, episodes, whatever you want to call this. And I think his YouTube is Social Experimentalist. So after watching that, I realized I saw how sometimes your eyes can be opened by seeing things that you don't realize. It's a bit like you take things for granted, and then when someone explains something to you, then you realize these things and they start to happen. Is it they start to happen, or is it that you're made aware of them? So yeah, I was doing my baby daughter's ear piercing, 6-month baby, and in Claire's. And so obviously, I've been filming the whole journey of, pregnancy and whatever, and so that they have all these videos when they grow up and they can see all the things that, that I would have liked to have seen of my childhood, that I can say, oh, this happened, and I'll have a, actual record of that. Obviously, you couldn't do it back then because the only thing they had was 8mm film. So I asked, oh, is it okay if I film the procedure? And the lady turned to me and said, oh no, you can't film. And then she went on to explain, she didn't have to do this, she probably shouldn't have done this, but she did. She went on to explain that, oh, it's because, if anything went wrong, then you would put it on social media. I mean, her honesty was great in a way, but the fact that I suppose it's not a great thing to say that, if anything went wrong just before you're going to put a hole in my daughter's ears, that you wouldn't let me film something just in case something goes wrong, and then I've got, evidence, proof. That's what you mean, isn't it, really? So their policy is not to let people film so that they can protect themselves, isn't it? And then I was thinking about Danny Shine and about how, well, wait a minute, you're filming me, so can I tell you to turn off your cameras because you're filming it anyway? But it's okay for you to film, but it's not okay for me to film my own daughter in, arguably, I don't know whether it would be considered a public place or not, because it's a very grey area, And then I was thinking, well, I could actually stand outside the shop and film through the glass. That way I would actually be able to do it, because I'd be on a public, outside would be a public space, inside would be the shops, that's probably private. So therefore I'm allowed to film anything in a public place, especially my own daughters. So obviously the thing is, you can't do these things, yeah? Because if you do that, then she'll say, oh, I'm not going to do your ears then. But it's funny how we don't actually have that many rights. They have a lot more rights, despite us being the ones that are paying the money for the pleasure of it. So it just, that incident happened. And it leads me on to the next thing, which is there a different purpose for life? That was the thing I was thinking of. I think that came a little bit from watching Rebecca's Way and, is it Dave's Flat Earth? Something like that, their hangout on YouTube. And it was making me think of it along these lines, that, we live our life, and I know I've mentioned this previously, that everything is a lie, and that we invented all the names for everything, and it's like a game of Monopoly or Game of Life or whatever. Everything we do is we've learnt from our forefathers, and that's just what we accept as life. And then I was thinking, well, is it, especially because maybe I'm thinking from my baby's point of view, that do we program our own babies? If our babies were left to their own devices, what would life be for them? Because we think of things as definitive, isn't it? We like to put things in a box. We think, well, this is life, this is life here, waking up, going to work. Because I was working out like the hours, out 24 hours, 8 hours you spend sleeping, 8 hours you spend working, and then 8 hours you spend doing whatever you want to do. So a third of your day is yours, and the rest is either something you need to take, like sleep, or to be able to do those other things. But this is just the way that life it isn't the way life has to be, it's the way life is. I suppose that's the way of seeing it. Because I was thinking before, like, I was thinking about, I think I was watching One Born Every Minute. It's a program about women giving birth. And I think it was Channel 4, I think. And I was thinking of, when a baby is born in the water tank, how does it not drown, and this, that and the other. And I was thinking about then, actually erroneously, but I was thinking that, what if a woman had a baby in the water, and then the baby was never taken out of the water, would it then be able to breathe under the water always? But then obviously I looked that up, and then I found out what actually the baby is, lungs being full up of water isn't what kills you when you suffocate underwater. It's the fact that you can't breathe. So the babies, when the baby's in the womb, the lungs are full of fluid, the amniotic fluid, but they're getting their oxygen through their stomach, through the umbilical cord, from the mother. So obviously that wouldn't work then, because the minute they're born, the umbilical cord gets disconnected, and then they have to learn to breathe themselves. So they wouldn't be able to breathe underwater. Because I was thinking, like, you're going to have this whole different life by living like that. The only other possibility is if you could, somehow keep the umbilical cord rather than cutting it off. What if because, I suppose it's meant to happen, isn't it? What happens if you have a baby, and the baby, somewhere outside, mother dies, the umbilical cord comes off? Because usually, like in a hospital, they would put a clamp on it, and that clamp, makes it go bad, so it drops off. What happens if you don't do that? Like actual nature's way, it will do that process itself? Because it must be able to, because there's no way nature would know that we would put a clamp on it, and obviously maybe we didn't at the beginning. So I'm just wondering, is it a natural process that it will drop off? If it doesn't drop off, maybe you could connect it to something, and you could breathe through that apparatus, and your lungs could be full of water, and it won't make any difference. Anyway, that's digressing rather from the subject that I'm talking about. Is that is there a different purpose for life? A different way of living? Because the way we live at the moment is basically to survive. To survive, you need money. I don't believe in money or worship it in the same way that some people do, but it is a necessity to live in this life. So I'm just wondering, what other ways would there be that we could live? I mean, there are tribes, they live differently, isn't it? They don't live for money, they don't have money. They live by, whatever way they live by. So there are different forms of it already existing. Obviously different countries have variations. So yeah, I was just thinking about, why do we cling on to this when we could make it whatever we want to make it? And then that brings me to the last point, which is, for a long time, I don't think I actually ever wrote it, I was thinking of this poem, because I was thinking how, like, everywhere you go there's light. We have lamps that light up the area that we're in, and then I was thinking about God as light, and that is that like, are those lamps like us making almost not churches of him, but not memories of like a statue, like you make a statue of someone, so, but we have light everywhere. And then obviously in the Quran it mentions that I think it's Surah Al-Nur, that has about God being like a lamp and a light in a niche. It's a very beautiful verse. I know in the Bible, I think it's under Peter or John, maybe both, it mentions that God being light, and it mentions a lot about light, and from the darkness and all that kind of stuff in both the Bible and the Quran. And then I was just thinking about that is this, if God is light, because we know that God isn't like us, isn't a human, he's in our terminology, alien to us. You know, he's formless. So obviously it could just be light. And then I was thinking about that. Is that why, you know, we make all these different lamps and things? You know, if you walk down the street, your way is always lit up by a light. And you know, your screen, your television, everything's based on lights. You know, is it sort of wired in? Anyway, yeah, I'm sure when I eventually write the poem it'll make more sense. But yeah, it just reminded me of that. Anyway, that's enough of my ramblings. Take care, take it easy. God bless and peace.